Welcome back to World War Live, everybody. I'm your host, Conrad Franz, and of course, you all were likely expecting David Erhan to be with me tonight. Of course, we've had to push that back to next week, so I apologize to everyone that was excited to have David joining the stream. We were going to have some great co-op Ethnoguesser games. We were going to discuss Turkey and the Kurdish issues, which are, of course, in the news right now. We're going to be talking about everything going on in Syria with the SDF and the movements of the Damascus HTS-led government, now dubbed, the SAA, which was formerly Assad's army, as he was in charge in Damascus. But now we are witnessing what appears to be the slow demise of the Kurdish SDF and their control over northeastern Syria. We might see Kurdish autonomy sort of relegated to Iraq and the area around Erbil, which is, of course, the capital of Kurdistan. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We've already got Paisios, Alan Wong, Dino Chicken, some well-known friends of the show in the chat. So it's good to see everybody. Let me know if you want to send a super chat if you want to ask any questions. We've already got a few super chats. Going to read those here in 1 second. But I want to thank everybody for joining me on this fantastic Tuesday evening. It's Tuesday evening, so it's World War Live. Better not be putting anything else on the calendar for Tuesday evening, 7:45, 8:45 Eastern. So it's great to be here with everybody. Got some news to discuss, got some Ethnoguesser to play, and I'm here. I realize I don't have my normal lamp turned on behind me. I might have to go turn that on. I don't know if I like the dark vibes going on right here, but it's great to see it. We've got mods in chat. Let me check the Substack chat. We've got a few people in the Substack chat, so it's always good to see everybody over there. Someday, the streaming software will be able to link with Substack. Hello. So I'm out of focus. Sorry. Why am I out of focus? Let me turn the light on. Okay, there we go. The light has solved the problems. So, we've got Rasputin Archive in chat. Going to mention him in a second. But before we move into the analysis, I got to encourage everybody. worldwarnow.co. Subscribe and watch the latest content. The latest episode of World War Now is essential viewing. One of our best episodes of recent, a real return to form. So be sure to check this one out, episode 147. We go deep into the latest remarks by Metropolitan Neophytos. We apply that directly to current events happening on the ground. We analyze exactly what's going on. So be sure to check that out at worldwarnow.co. And if you can, get behind the paywall. Support the show, $7 a month. Maybe we'll throw in a sale here soon, 10, 20% off your first 6 months or something if you get behind the paywall for a year. But if you check out our most recent paywall content, is my interview with Metropolitan Mitrofan of Gorlovka. You can see here, this is a frame from well behind the paywall. So get behind the paywall, watch the whole thing. It really was an honor to be here in one of the longest suffering cities of the Donbass, Gorlovka, interviewing Metropolitan Mitrofan there, who his church has come under fire several times. Many of his parishioners, several are, 10 or so percent of his metropolis is still occupied by Ukraine. So he has to deal with that. They've tried to, they've dealt with the people that are on the other side being persecuted, and it's not, it's very heavy and serious stuff. I also interview, if you make it farther in, I interview some refugees from Chasov Yar who had just been rescued, some of the final people residing underground in the basements in Chasov Yar as the war waged above them. So be sure to check that out. They talk all about how Ukrainian soldiers shot up the iconostasis of their church, what it was like to finally get rescued, and what it was like to walk out and try to escape back behind the Russian front line. So really, really intense content, some of my finest work, if I do say so myself. So check out the latest World War Now. Before that, of course, we have the latest Ether Hour Q&A episode. So be sure to check that out as well. Really, if you click the Ether Hour tab, you get access to all of the paid content right here in order. You can go all the way back to the very beginning with some of the first episodes of Ether Hour, some very old episodes, all the way back to interviews with Luigi, interviews with Andrei Afanasiev, our Gregory Hears episodes about St. John Vatatsis, or interviews with Anthony Westgate, interviews with Momchilo, continuing to debunk MAGA communism, interviews with David Patrick Harry, interviews with Isaac Swalem about Palestine, interviews with Rachel Wilson, interviews again with Andrei Afanasiev about Gabriel Doroshin, more Q&As, interviews with Lucas Gage, other deep content from Dimitri and I. So be sure to check all of that out. It's greatly appreciated to see everyone here in the chat. And before we dive in to the content news this week, I want to encourage everybody, another reason to get behind the paywall at worldwarnow.co, which is in the description wherever you may be watching this. If you're watching on Twitter, go to the profile. It's the link on the profile. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to just get the description. And if you're already watching on Substack, well, you don't need me to tell you where to go. But probably the most highly anticipated episode of Ether Hour is currently being edited by our intrepid editor, and it is part 1 in what will likely be a 2 or 3-part series about, and you see him in the chat, Rasputin Archive. He's right here, all about Rasputin. You know, we have here one of the things I read in preparation, A Life for the Tsar, Gregory Efimovich Rasputin. We had Alex from Rasputin Archive on the show, an over 2-hour discussion just about the early and middle life of Rasputin. We haven't even gotten into his time with the Romanov royal martyrs yet. That's coming in a future episode. So here at Ether Hour World War Now with Rasputin Archive, we're bringing you the most extensive English language podcast experience all about the truth behind Rasputin. So be sure to like the stream, share the stream while you're here. Go and like all the other content on the World War Now Substack if you can. It really helps us out. And with all of that, we can dive right in here. Thank you all again so much for tuning in. We have $5 from Paisios of EO. He says, Jonathan Kelly got to understand one thing, that I am and always will be the top donator. He is a lonely priest while I'm the patriarch of World War Now. I don't know, Paisios. The numbers, Jonathan wins the numbers game. He's locked in there. But noetically speaking, where you are in the monastery, you might be racking up prayer points. So greatly appreciated, my brother Paisios. That's why he's got the wrench. You know, treat this guy with respect. But it's always great to see him in the chat. Thank you for the $5, brother. Hope to see you soon in the future. We've got $4.98 from Horford Allen, World War Now Economic Games. Thank you, brother. You are pumping up. The line is going up. The GDP of the hypothetical World War Now nation is peaking thanks to donations like you. So it's great to have you guys here in the chat, supporting the show, keeping the lights on here at the proverbial World War Now bunker. So I don't see Jonathan Kelly. He just took that call out from Paisios and he's just taking it. He's not gonna show him up by donating. I guess we'll wait for him to enter the chat, because he knows what Tuesday evenings are for. But unless anybody else has any more questions, going to dive right on in. Feel free to ask whatever you want in the chat when you send the super chats. But here we go. I've actually wondered if I should just feel like I don't necessarily need to read along. People can complain in the chat. If you like reading along with the articles, let me know in the chat and I can put them on the screen for you. But I'm just going to read them, and you can see the article. And Paisio says the prayer points are worth more than any amount of money, and that's so true, man. Everybody, if you're on the stream, you got to add me to your prayer list. Just got my house blessed today, so this room, the studio, as it were, as if it isn't my bedroom, is blessed. It's better than it's been, so we're going to try to keep it holy in here and keep it prayed up. So add me to your prayer lists. I hope that everybody's also getting their houses blessed here at the beginning of the year. Someone's asking if I've seen the new Kotel podcast. I did, with Professor Zhang. We're probably going to try to have him on the show. So, yeah. It's $10 from Twaho. Which book do you recommend on Rasputin? Well, there's a lot of books. Frankly, Rasputin Archive is here in the chat. He could probably tell you some books. I mean, this is a great short thing to read, A Life for the Tsar by Archpriest Andrew Phillips. It's a good read. It's sort of a hagiographical retelling, very pro-Rasputin, but there are many books that we actually talk about in the episode that comes out, so I don't want to spoil too much for you. But Sergei Fomin has an extensive book. Not everything is translated into English necessarily, though, but I know Dimitri and Alex have a lot of the English translations. Maybe the Fomin book is entirely in English. I'm not 100% sure, but Rasputin Archive in the chat here, he will tell you more things probably you would want, and then you could ever want to read about Rasputin. And you should check out his Substack. Check the sources on his Rasputin Archive Substack. If you search Rasputin Archive on Substack, it'll come up. And in the next few days, you should be seeing our episode with him, potentially as soon as tomorrow. So thank you so much for the $10, Twaho. Someone says, Conrad, reading the articles aloud so the robos won't take our jobs. I don't know if that's pro or against me reading the articles or showing them on screen. But I'm going to just start reading now. And at some point, I want to get like an overlay where I can like have a map that isn't just a live UA map. I almost want to get someone to make me like a custom, like closed circuit program that doesn't need the internet, that lets me play around with maps and different scenarios and overlays. If anyone has any knowledge about something like that, DM me, let me know. But man, I don't know why I'm so dehydrated right now. Apologies, everyone have to watch me drink, but here we go from antiwar.com here. Headline: Full SDF mobilization as ceasefire between Syria, Kurds, and Tatars. The ceasefire between the Kurdish SDF and the Syrian military seems to be completely in tatters Tuesday, as the SDF General Command called for a full mobilization of their forces amid ongoing attacks by the military in their territory in northeast Syria. Sunday's ceasefire was meant to end several weeks of heavy fighting in Aleppo, but seemed to be faltering in less than 24 hours, with the army and their allies attacking Kurdish territory in several sites, notably trying to seize SDF-held prisons full of ISIS detainees. The Syrian government's go-to solution for this is to announce yet another ceasefire, though in this case the ceasefire looks more like an ultimatum, with President Ahmed al-Shara giving the SDF 4 days to agree to the integration of the Hasaki governorate under his control. The SDF, by contrast, seems to be readying forces for the inevitable collapse of yet another ceasefire that's being wildly feted by the international community, with the current fighting centering on the area around the city of Kobani. SDF commander Muslim Abdi says that the group will be falling back to Kurdish majority areas of the country, which includes the area around Kobani as well as the northeast, and will defend them as a red line and resist attacks on those areas. Syrian officials are trying to portray the Kurds as uniquely intransigent about the diplomacy surrounding integration talks, which are both an attempt to shift the blame for the fighting entirely onto the SDF and a justification for the 4-day ceasefire and its inevitable collapse. U.S. envoy Tom Barak is loudly on board with forcibly integrating the Kurds into Syria, repeatedly declaring that federalism doesn't work. Today, he doubled down on that position, declaring that the SDF's mission is over and they must integrate. Given the amount of violence against other minorities in Syria and the repeated attacks on the Kurds themselves within Syria, many aren't hopeful that integration will be peaceful. That fear extends internationally, with Iraqi Kurds in particular rising up to protest against the attacks on their Syrian brethren. Kurdish protesters rallied at multiple locations, including the U.S. consulate in Erbil, where the position was that the U.S., as historic allies to the SDF, should be supporting them instead of arguing in favor of dismantling them outright. Though the largest demonstrations were in Iraq's Erbil and Suleimania, other rallies were reported elsewhere where a Kurdish population lives, including Beirut, Paris, and London. In Europe, the rallies were more generally in support of the Kurdish-dominated Rojava Autonomous Regional Government, which the Syrian government also intends to dismantle once they resolve the resistance of the SDF. So, the issue with everything going on right now is obviously that the SDF and Kurdistan, as I just mentioned with the Rojava government, operates across the Iraqi-Syrian border. But it appears that since federalism, according to Tom Barak, doesn't work, that they're going to be ending any kind of Kurdish autonomy, integrating the SDF forces into the SAA Damascus centralized government, and then, of course, they will be completely ending whatever influence and Kurdish autonomy and Rojava rule within Syria, basically cutting what we understand to be Kurdistan, the de facto nation state, in half. So mainly the Kurds will only have some kind of political autonomy in Iraq. I don't know, maybe in Iran they have some form of regional autonomy, but not obviously as much as Iraq or other places, because Iran also has one of the largest Kurdish populations. But I see people looking into talking about some of the map things I was talking about. That's great to see. But unfortunately, with this, I'm no huge Kurd supporter. They're very communistic. Even in America, we have the version of like neo-Nazis going and pagans going to fight in Ukraine for leftists in America is going to fight in Syria and Iraq with like the YPG and like the women's communist militias of the PKK in Kurdistan and places that border Turkey against, Erdogan-backed forces like the SNA that we're seeing right now in Syria, as well as Assad's forces back in the day most prominently. So I'm no huge supporter of Kurdish necessarily autonomy per se, but they are basically one of the largest stateless peoples. There's more Kurds than there are Greeks and there's no Kurdistan, right? And as I mentioned in World War Now, episode 147, which again, you got to listen to hear the full analysis, Metropolitan Neophytos says that when the Kurds get a state, that will be around the time when the Russia-Turkish war thing is going to really start to happen, because many of the prophecies discuss the creation of Kurdistan, the enlargement of Armenia as well, which will have to do with the sort of the collapse of Turkish influence in the region. And right now, and I'm actually going to read this from Tom Barak, who's the envoy to Lebanon and Syria from the United States, what he said recently, which will make sense what who will be behind this this Kurdish state coming to be. We of course know that Israel, it seems that their plan is, once they get Trump and the United States, to take care of Iran for them in these impending strikes. The word is that Trump is still asking his advisors, the Pentagon and military advisors he has, for devastating, decisive options, as he's using them. He wants any kind of strike or assault or operation against Iran to fully decapitate the regime and lead to regime change. If it's not that, he doesn't want to do it because he thinks it'll make us look weak, and it'll prove that the Iranian regime is stronger than them and Israel want people to think. So that's the background. And once that's taken care of, it's clear that Israel is going to move to try to take care of Erdogan, dethrone him, replace him with a Kemalist, pro-Western, pro-Israel, likely anti-Russian, most likely character that will undoubtedly stop a lot of Erdogan's operations that he's doing in Syria, put pressure off the Kurds, and potentially Israel can then push for federalized Syria and create the Druze state, create the Kurdish state, probably help the Christians on the coast in Latakia create a Christian state, and basically balkanize Syria and keep the radical Sunni elements sort of landlocked in the center, in the deserts of the country, which that's the forces right now that are mostly mobilized against the SDF, that mostly mobilized against the Druze, that largely mobilized against Assad when he fell, are these Bedouin, Sunni, pseudo-Wahhabist tribes that have allied with HTS, the SNA, these other proto and kind of post-Al-Qaeda groups. That's who is currently governing and has military control in Syria. And this operation, it seems that they finally got organized and well-trained enough, and al-Jalani al-Shara has consolidated and created enough of a unified fighting force where they really feel like now they can just take on the SDF, because the SDF reportedly has 100,000 fighters controlled by Muslim Abdi, largely motivated by Kurdish ethnic interests in the country. So with Israel now trying to balkanize that, shift their focus now, already beginning to shift the focus from Iran, who they see as, once the strike comes, will be taken care of, according to Trump, shifting towards Turkey. So this is what Tom Barak had to say. This is from Tab's Alternative Media. U.S. Special Envoy to Syria Tom Barak sharply condemned SDF commander Mazloum Abdi in a closed-door meeting in Erbil, accusing him of trying to drag Israel into Syria's conflict and warning such a move would be dangerous and unacceptable, Middle East Eye reports. Barak said involving Syria could lead to destruction and create serious friction between Turkey and Israel, both key U.S. allies. He also criticized Abdi for delaying the March 2025 agreement to integrate the SDF into the Syrian army, accusing the SDF leadership of stalling, relying on foreign powers, and acting as if the Assad era had not ended. Barak stressed that Damascus is now a U.S. partner in counterterrorism and said the SDF must adapt to Syria's new political reality. So, big denunciation there. It's clear that the Turkish influence in America has paid off. Trump, Tom Barak, most of the people in positions of power in the United States are very much pro-Turkey and even pro-Erdogan. So Erdogan, you have to give him credit for his political kind of empire building that he's been able to undertake, because he's one of the few leaders that his interests sometimes press up against Israeli interests and are weighed with respect and are weighed with real push behind it. People aren't just going to be like, oh, put the Turks aside like we do for most other countries, Europe, as we are with Greenland, as we're going to discuss here in a second. So again, this Kurdish thing is definitely going to come back and become a big deal. And I think we could easily see a Kurdish state emerge here in the next few years, as Turkey is, the ire of Israel is focused on Turkey. Potentially America will see Erdogan in a less pro-Erdogan light. America will no longer be such a close ally of his and view him as a positive character if maybe he makes a move on Greece, or if maybe something happens, or again, he just dies and they have to support a Kemalist pro-Westerner coming to power, uh, unless somehow some Muslim Brotherhood aligned candidate emerges with like Hamas support on an anti-Israel, pro-Palestine platform when elections are called. I don't see anybody besides Ekrem İmamoğlu or one of these other Kemalists coming to power in Turkey. So the prophecies will undoubtedly be fulfilled, but you have to listen to episode 147 of World War Now to really hear the deep analysis, because Metropolitan Yofitosi talks about all of this. It's very fascinating stuff. We have a new thing here from CIG, or Ram Navarim, actually. The Wall Street Journal says, after pulling back from strikes in Iran last week, Trump is still pressing aides for what he terms decisive military options. Yep. Trump has repeatedly used the word decisive when describing what effect he would like any U.S. action to have on Iran. So, that's what I said earlier. Trump is really trying to decapitate and do the Israeli interests, and I guess he wants Israel probably to take care of Lebanon while he's taking care of Iran. But it seems the Israelis are very hesitant to deal with Hezbollah, because Hezbollah did so much damage to the northern Kiryat Shmona and the other northern settlements in Israel that people still haven't been able to move back to it in some areas. There's been so much censorship about how much damage was done there, because they don't want Israelis and Jews to realize how vulnerable they are in those parts of the homeland and head on back to Europe, head back to South America, for example, where Israelis have been repeatedly caught causing massive wildfires, causing huge fires, forest fires that burn down huge areas of forest, ostensibly to be utilized by future land speculators and developed into Israeli-owned land, safe areas for Jews, because South America is generally considered a pretty safe place for Jews these days, especially under Javier Milei, who's the biggest philo-Semite ever. And this is in like Patagonia, Torres del Paine National Park, some of the most beautiful parts of the world. So that's the kind of thing that a lot of Jews are looking to. So that's why there's a lot of military censorship in Israel, because they don't want people to get spooked and start fleeing the Zionist entity. Because if all the Jews start leaving, then the Israeli project is over. But we have $5 here from Russian that I can't read, who asks, what is your opinion on the prophecies about King Arthur returning to England in its time of need? Well, I think their time of need is come and gone. I think the time of need was they needed to not have Churchill run things during World War II, or they needed to not succumb to the Windrush Revolution and let every immigrant in the world into the country. And now their time of need would have been decades ago. Before now, I believe a third of all births in the UK are aborted. So I think from my perspective, it's largely over for the United Kingdom. Balkanization could easily be the future of a United Kingdom with Scottish, and potentially in the future even Welsh independence, potential Irish unification in the future. So I don't think it looks good for the United Kingdom. I don't know about any specific Orthodox prophecies about King Arthur returning in England's time of need, but if you have anything like that, please send it to me. Get on the World War Now Discord would be a good place to post that and talk about that. So I would love to hear it. I love that Hideous Strength by C.S. Lewis, where they resurrect Merlin, and Merlin talks about wanting to appeal to the Byzantine emperor, but Ransom, the main character, has to tell them, unfortunately, there is no more emperor, no Christian empire. And that really saddens and black pills Merlin. So that's a great book. I'm a big fan. So I guess this is just Alexander Nevsky in Russian. I wasn't reading the full thing, but we love Alexander Nevsky. I've been to the site of Alexander Nevsky's baptism in Russia, which was quite the thing to experience. So thank you for the $5, my friend. And I'd love to hear more about this, the King Arthur stuff, because I'm a big fan of medieval myths and legends and prophecies and stuff. But here we're St. John Vitatsis enjoyers. We are believers in the Marble Emperor. And speaking of, though, imperial expansion and, the growth of empire, this is also from Anti-War. Trump refuses to rule out military option for Greenland. President Donald Trump declined to rule out the use of force to take control of Greenland soon after several European allies dispatched troops to the territory in an apparent warning to Washington. Asked by NBC News whether he would use military force to seize Greenland during a brief interview on Monday, the U.S. simply replied, no comment. He previously hinted at military options, saying that last week that the United States would take the territory one way or another. Further ratcheting up tensions over the issue, Trump additionally said he no longer felt an obligation to think purely of peace. With regard to Greenland, according to a letter he penned to Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store and obtained by Bloomberg, the president went on to blame the Nordic state for failing to award him a Nobel Peace Prize, adding that the world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. After Trump vowed to impose a 10% tariff on 8 European states opposed to any U.S. takeover of Greenland, the UK, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Finland, the nations in question deployed a small contingent of troops to Danish-controlled territory for a round of military drills. Excuse me. On Monday, Copenhagen reportedly sent additional forces to Greenland, with around 100 stationed in the capital city of Nuuk and a similar number deployed to Kangerlussuaq, a town not far from Greenland's west coast. The U.S. president has insisted that Greenland is vital to American national security, claiming without evidence that Russia and China also seek to control the territory. He also argued U.S. control of the country is needed to be for the proposed Golden Dome missile defense shield. Trump's escalating rhetoric has stoked outrage in Denmark, which has ruled Greenland since which has ruled Greenland since the 18th century, with some 10,000 Danes turning out to protest a U.S. takeover on Saturday. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen previously condemned unacceptable pressure by the Trump administration and warned that any U.S. military intervention to seize Greenland could destroy the NATO alliance. And today, there were actually protests in Greenland against a U.S. takeover, which was somewhat interesting to see. It was actually, for Greenland, it was a pretty large protest. Looks like maybe even a few thousand people, which is pretty big for an entire country of 57,000. So it was already more than easily more than potentially up to 10% of the country, if not more, came out to protest. So that was interesting. Obviously, I do think the United States is going to obtain Greenland one way or another. I'm fairly ambivalent on the situation because, again, there's really not a real difference between America controlling it and Denmark controlling it. Denmark is literally a puppet state of the CIA and have been for a long time. So literally a lot of this, I think, is genuinely about Trump's ego about the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, he's mad about that. So he's like embarrassing Greenland. And more than that, I think for him, if Greenland actually becomes part of America, like a Puerto Rico style territory, then Trump will, when it shows Greenland as part of America on maps in the future, people will be like, how did this happen? And everyone's going to be like, well, Donald Trump. And it's just going to be one of those things that he's going to be known for years and years to come, assuming the American empire doesn't collapse or most of America doesn't sink into the sea, cursed by God before then. So that's the up and down on that. I think, again, I do think it's eventually going to become part of America. Scott Greer was talking about how he thinks there's going to be a sort of what are these like concordats that we sign with some of these other countries? They don't become American territories, but we basically have free reign to do whatever we want there, like the Marshall Islands, Federated States of Micronesia, some of these other places. It might become something like that, just short of being an American territory. But it might go so far as to be like Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, some of these other things. So that's what we're looking forward to. But he's back, $20, $19.99 from Jonathan Kelly. He answered the call. He answered the call out from Paisios. He says, St. Nicholas Antiochian Cathedral sends its regards. If you're talking about the cathedral in Brooklyn, I've been there many times. Saw my first hierarchical divine liturgy there, among several other things. Unfortunately, both the bishops that I saw concelebrating are no longer in the good graces of the church, per se. So a bit blackpilling. But I send my regards as well. Beautiful, beautiful cathedral. Thank you again for the $20, my friend. And yes, people are asking certain things that specific question. No, I'm not going to talk about that for free because it has nothing to do with this stream. So if you want to send $2, I can talk about that. But in reality, I don't have a particularly strong opinion about that specific subject. So be warned about asking about that. But thank you to Jonathan Kelly, St. Nicholas Antiochian Cathedral, beautiful place in Brooklyn. I used to live actually like 2 blocks away from that cathedral in downtown Brooklyn when I was in college in my days as a young whippersnapper. So thank you for the $20, brother. It's always good to have Jonathan Kelly in chat. Someone give this guy a wrench. I don't know how to wrench this guy. I don't think I can do it on the streaming software. Maybe I can do it on YouTube, but I don't have a YouTube tab pulled up besides the live stream outro. So If any of the other mods can give this guy a wrench, do it. If not, I'll give you one at some point, Jonathan. But you've earned it, man. Thank you for the $20. If there's any other like major news items this week that I'm missing that people want to talk about, especially foreign policy wise, let me know. I don't think I'm missing much of anything with this Iran stuff here. Oh yeah, this was definitely something I wanted to read. And this is from Middle East Spectator. It says, today on January 21st, right now it's the 20th, but in Iran it's the 21st, several executions of terrorists and armed rioters are scheduled to take place after Fajr, which is the dawn prayer in the Muslim daily prayer cycle. The Iranian judiciary will punish every criminal instigator, traitor, and terrorist and bring them to justice. So it appears that they are going to be pushing Trump. They're going to be crossing his red line, which is no executions for rioters. I'm sure they're going to start with people that actually like killed police officers. So when the U.S. inevitably condemns the execution of these protesters, that Iran will be like, well, this man killed 3 people, or this man shot a guy in the head, or this guy shot a police officer in the leg and started trying to assault other peaceful protesters or something like this. So I'm sure that's what they'll be doing. But nonetheless, I'm sure there will be some messages sent, some people that didn't kill anybody, some rioters that maybe didn't commit violence but simply participated in organizations and the distribution of materials and stuff involving these protests. Maybe some of those people will be put to death. And undoubtedly Trump and the Israelis and Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince of Iran, who wants to be the king and the Shah, undoubtedly they will be doing everything they can to gin up international resentment for this, more protests in Iran to avenge these protesters that are going to be killed. It's probably they're going to try to run it back for round 2, and the Iranians, I'm sure, are preparing for this, and they're asserting their sovereignty. They're saying that they don't want to just not get struck but not kill these people. They want to show that you can even strike us if you want to. We're going to enforce justice in the Islamic Republic way, and if you strike us, we're going to strike back. And the Iranians seem to be communicating that their focus will be the U.S. infrastructure, if it is, because it seems to be the U.S. is just as excited as Israel this time to do the strike. So obviously, if there are Israelis participating in the strikes, Israel will be targeted, but it seems like the main target might be United States infrastructure all around. The Middle East, Cyprus could even be targeted if the British participate. Areas is even in Turkey itself could come under fire. I'm sure the Turks would probably make sure that doesn't happen, but who knows if things really start going bad. We did see the statement, probably one of the more interesting statements from Erdogan. This will definitely be discussed in our future episodes. Where is it? Yeah. Erdogan said in a recent remark, this was yesterday, I'm confident with wisdom my Iranian brothers and sisters will overcome the treacherous Israeli-backed sedition that targeted the country's social peace and stability. So he's fully standing with the Iranians as they crack down on the protests. Perhaps Erdogan anticipates having to crack down on protests that Israel foments in his sphere of influence soon in Turkey itself, color revolution, if he intends to live longer than a few more years, which again is up in the air. But things are really coming together. It's crazy how the prophecy, how history is bending towards the saints, and how vindicated the World War Now prophetic analysis has been, because it's all really happening. And on top of the impending Iran strikes, what seems to be escalating in Syria, we do have some updates on the Gaza situation. This is probably the last story we're going to get into, really, before we potentially play a little bit of Ethnoguesser. I'm not seeing any more super chats right now, so don't be afraid to drop $2 and ask me something wacky if you insist, as it were. So the headline here is Trump invites Putin to join the Gaza Board of Peace. It says Russia and Israel are the latest governments asked to join. He's asking Israel to join the Board of Peace as if he had a choice. Russia and Israel are the latest governments asked to join President Donald Trump's expanding Board of Peace. The body, he says, will implement his plan for Gaza and mediate conflicts worldwide. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed on Monday that Russian President Vladimir Putin has received an invitation, even as Russia's nearly 4-year war on Ukraine continues. Israel has also been invited, but the office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu offered no comment on whether it will participate. While France was a recent invitee to the board, sources close to the French president, Emmanuel Macron, said the country would decline Trump's invitation. According to the report, France does not intend at this stage to give a favorable response to the request, adding, the charter goes beyond the framework of Gaza alone. It raises major questions, particularly regarding respect for the principles and structure of the United Nations, which must under no circumstances be called into question. Sorry, I have a little bit of allergies. The Board of Peace is a 3-tier structure created to supervise Gaza's demilitarization and reconstruction under a 20-point plan Trump unveiled last September. It should be chaired by the president, and it would be chaired by the president, and would elevate U.S. and European figures such as Secretary of State Marco Rubio and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, while relegating Palestinian representatives to the municipal level. Legal scholars and human rights advocates say this design marginalizes Palestinians and entrenches Western and Israeli interests. So obviously, it goes on here. It says, Peskov said Moscow was seeking to clarify all the nuances of Trump's offer. Putin has lauded Trump's attempts to broker ceasefires, but the invitation arrives as Russian forces fight in Ukraine and as Moscow's relations with Israel deteriorate over the Gaza assault. News agencies have reported that Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko is also on the invite list, highlighting the eclectic mix of states Trump hopes to enlist. So Trump also invited Zelensky. I think that might have happened after this article was published. But so all sorts of wacky characters, truly. If you've got Zelensky in there, I guess the Israelis are protesting because they don't want to continue on with the peace plan. They just want to annex the rest of Gaza, just starve the little strip that they've pulled out of already because they know they can. Trump wants Turkey, I know, on that Gaza board, but the Israelis completely refuse that. So that's the status there. I'm wondering if, Turkish troops in Gaza, when something goes down, if that's going to lead to something crazy happening. We're going to have to see. But we have $10 more, $9.99 from Jonathan Kelly. What do you think about the normies and normie press starting I'm assuming you mean starting to see that World War III is starting? Well, what it will ultimately take for them to literally print the big headline in the newspaper, World War III is starting, is it's going to be like an actual strike between two big countries. Like it's going to be NATO versus Russia. It's going to be US versus Iran, like sustained battles with troops potentially. It's going to be Russia versus Turkey, I think, is really going to be what gets it kicking off. It's going to be potentially something in the Balkans, Turkey versus Greece. When that happens, it could start discussions of World War III. I mean, we're hearing over this Greenland stuff. There's already talks about dissolving NATO, about NATO no longer existing anymore, that Trump secretly wants NATO to stop existing. So again, when you realize that Trump wants NATO to stop existing, is a fan of Erdogan, you can totally see a world where Erdogan moves on these Greek islands, protests emerge, Erdogan falls, Israel uses that as an opportunity to get a pro-Westerner in there. The US then uses that pro-Westerner to divert, their focus from taking more of Greece to going against Russia in the Black Sea. The Kurds are granted a state, maybe before all this happens at some point. And it's not hard to see how things are going to go the exact way that St. Paisios, St. Porphyrios, Elder Ephraim, and Metropolitan Neophytos have been telling us that they're going to go. And I think 2026, like if you watch episode 147 of World War Now, where I read Metropolitan Neophytos' remarks, 2026 could be that time when, like you said, the normie press starts to say it's World War III, not just based World War Now, patriot, Orthodox brothers. So it's all real, as they say. So the Gaza thing is fading into the background a bit, but I still think it's going to be a notable flashpoint, especially if Hezbollah gets more and more involved. Who knows what Hamas will do if they really think that it's all over for Israel, or it's all over for Iran, or it's all over for Turkey. Who knows? Hamas obviously is going to be communicating with Turkey and Qatar probably very closely. So going to be keeping a very close eye on all of that. But it's probably time to hop over, play a little bit of Ethnoguesser. Thank you for all the super chats so far. Paisios, Porphyrios, Twaho, Alexander Nevsky, and Jonathan Kelly. If anyone else wants to send any questions, feel free to send in a super chat while we're playing everybody's favorite game. But now I will be relegated to the corner of the screen, so you don't all see my beautiful face and my definitely not weird looking mustache. But gonna play the daily game. I'm sorry, good thing I have the water here. Got all sorts of congestion and issues. Be sure to tune in next week this evening. Hopefully David will be available and we'll be able to do the show. So it'll be a great show discussing in more detail a lot of this Turkey stuff. So this is very much setting it up for a good episode with David. But let's lock into the daily game. Everybody, put on your thinking caps, put on your phrenology and your racial demographic, professor caps, and get ready to identify some phenotypes. Let's go. Daily game. Okay. These are interesting, man. These could be people, Turkish steppe people that have come all the way over here, or these could be out here, somewhere. This big ad is really not. It's not great. I don't know. I can't confirm the guess. Let me reload this. What's happening? Oh, dark mode. That's better. Dark map. I don't know. What's happening though? I can't. Godspeed, Paisio. Stay prayed up. Good to see you in the chat, man. Why can't I confirm the guess? Like, what's going on here? This makes no sense. Let me try. What the heck? Oh, I'm stupid. I thought I had clicked earlier and it just didn't do it. Okay. I need help on this guess, people, but I will read the super chat. We have $4.99, $5 from Jonathan Kelly. No question. Are Indians, if Aryan origin is true, sons of Japheth? Well, there were Indians back in the day that were like blonde hair, blue eyed, but they've been mixed with these Dalit characters that are. I'm no expert on subcontinental ethnography, but I don't think the current subcontinentals are exactly the same as the people, the Aryans that originally conquered the region. But I think they have some mixture. I think Persians, Iranians are far more Aryan in their true current admixture with just mild Arab and Kurdish and other tribal admixture. That's why they're not 100% white looking. But I think, that's why you look at the Ayatollah. I mean, he almost looks Greek or something like that. So I think that's why I think the Iranians are more Aryan in that sense. But yes, I need to do more research on that, frankly. But help me with this guess. David, if David was here, he could help me because frankly, these people don't not look like David. So I need to know if these are in Russia or Kazakhstan or the Caucasus, because that's where I'm thinking this is gonna be. Yeah, could these be like? Could it be over here? Somewhere in here? I don't know about this one. I'm gonna need some more guesses in the chat. Need people playing along and helping. But I'm gonna just guess if nobody's gonna help me in the chat here. I'm just gonna have to guess a random Central Asian area. Uralids. West. I got the average. That's hard to believe. West Siberian subtype, especially common in the basin of the Ob River among Khanty and Mansi people. So I think Porphyrios was right about West Slav. So someone said these are Germans. That is indeed not true. But thank you, awesome cool guy, for the attempt. All right, at least didn't get a 0. We almost got a 50%. So let's move on the next round here. All right. We're in Africa. Darkest Africa. Now, are these, I don't know, these could be anywhere. These just look like black people. Are these east, not too far east, but are these Central East Africans, West Africans, or South Africans? That's the question here. What's everyone thinking? What's everyone feeling? I guess people in the chat are just behind if we're having a nationwide, the Wi-Fi is slow worldwide, but yeah, these look like Bantus, but these are some of the lighter skinned Africans that you'll see on this game. So I'm wondering if South Africa or maybe, but I'm leaning more towards South. Like down here. But I'm not seeing too many guesses. If it's Tanzania, people saying Central Africa. I don't know about that. I don't think these are Australian Aboriginals. People say trending north. What, like this? I don't know, maybe. Is this what you mean, Alan, in the Northern Central African Republic or like Northern DRC? Yeah, he's got a little bit of a Floydian nature to him. That's what I'm saying. These I think these are a little too light. I think South Africa is probably where this is happening. So let's if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm locking in down there. And we do it. South Bantuids. I'm telling you, the lighter skinned ones in Africa are always in the south. And that was a perfect dunk right there. These are the Bantuids that made it south. They're less dark. All right. Are these the Anglos? See, are these going to be like here, or here? Those are like the three options. Someone's asked me why that is as far as the lighter skin. I don't know, but it's what I've noticed in this game for sure. It may have something to do with maybe they get less sun in the interior of the country or something. I don't know. But should I do like Sweden? Should I do like Denmark, Germany? Or should I do like Scotland? Like it's all, maybe I don't think it's Finland, but I think I'll go like here. Yeah. Dalophalids. Coarse Cro-Magniform Nordic variety of Central and Northern Europe, named after the Swedish province of Dalarna. Yeah, I think it just gave me the 5K there. So Northern Germany, Sweden, bit of Norway, Denmark. That's how we do. So we're doing well, everybody. We're doing well. Pretty good round so far. Oh. The question is this like Western North America, or is this we're somewhere here, I believe, in this Pacific region. Not seeing any guesses in the Substack chat, so that's all right. But gonna need some help on this one here. If people want to tell me, are we talking like here? Are we talking like here, maybe? Or are we talking like some of this stuff? I really don't know. I'm thinking maybe more up there, but No one in chat is locking in to assist here. This is a collaborative effort, everybody. I was supposed to have a partner anyway, so I need even more assistance. I'm really thinking like Alaska, Canada, or like it's gonna be like somewhere in like this circle. But I need some input from the audience here. I need some assistance. Here's an Inuit territory. I think that's a good inclination. This man's facial hair looks almost Indic. Yeah, but I'm gonna. It's probably gonna be Alaska or Siberia for me. So if anyone else has any specific, like, don't just say Inuit territory. You have to tell me where to actually click. So tell me. It's gonna be Alaska in the next 10 seconds if nobody locks in and tells me where we should where I should click. But I think I'm gonna click, here. So right here on the Alaska Canadian border. And these are Ioshima Inuits. These are like pre-Japanese. Dang. Yeah, I needed the Asian guy help on this one, but yeah, Eastern Siberia, that might have been better. Yeah, I should have done Kamchatka. But that's a tough one. Let's lock that one into the memory bank here. These are Inuits so we got to go northern Japan, Kuril Islands. Next time you see something like this, guys. So northern Japan, Kuril Islands. Lock that in. But dang, that's an interesting one though. That's cool. I didn't get a 0, so I got a 484, so almost a 0. But yeah. So this is a learning moment in the Ethnoguesser world. So these are right here. Ethiopian, Eritrean. I feel like we got to go there. Gonna let some people catch up, but I guess the chat's a little behind, but it's an easy East Africa. These are clear Nilotes. These are the more civilized Africans. It says, I'm a noble Aksumite. This is Sudan. Well, I'm going to just go on the Sudan-Ethiopia border here. Because it's going to probably cross national borders if it behaves normally. And those are not in Sudan. These are Moors. Wow. I totally fell for that one. Relatively recent contact type of the Western Sahara. So these are like Southern Moroccans and Mauritanians. Dang. You're right. They do have Arab features, but wow. Got to lock that one in too. Moors. So this is Western Sahara right here. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So these are just Moors straight up from that's what Othello supposedly looked like. I don't know if I believe that, but interesting. All right, next round. Oh, I feel like I've seen this before. This is, yeah. I guess I should have locked in more there. Those are Katangids. I've seen them in South Africa before. I should have, Prosy, DM me on X or on Substack and tell me more. I'll talk to you right when the stream ends. We can lock in. But thank you. I love to see it. Thank you for the assistance. But yeah, these are Katangas. I feel like I should have more than 3749, but you can really only, if you guess there, very ancient Australiform African type, probably more widespread during the Paleolithic, only survives as a rare minority element. Africa, Botswana. So you have to get there to get the 5,000. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. On to the next round. Oh, I feel like this is North America. I feel like this is here or here. If anyone disagrees with continental United States, let me know. Yeah, pros, you don't need to send it in the don't send it in the live chat. Just just DM me somewhere. But Apache type, yeah, I agree. I think I'm gonna go for it. Oh, 0. Those are South Fuegids. Most characteristic Fuegid variety adapted to the cool climate of southern Chile. Named after Tierra del Fuego, considered part of the Lagoid group. Dang. Dang. You guys are not talking fast enough in the chat. Like, no, like, I don't know if there's a delay, but you're going to have to, when you see the thing, you got to immediately start saying what it's going to be, because I'm not just going to wait around. Oh, these look like subcontinentals. Like, these look like Southern Indians or Bengalis to me. Like something here or something here. What are people thinking here? Let's get I need people to at least type in the chat when I put up the new faces, so I even know that people are even looking at what I'm looking at. So people say Bangladesh. Anybody think Southern India? I shouldn't get a 0 regardless, but I think Bangladesh is real. No one else is locking in, so I think says we got 45 people on Substack, so hello to everyone there. It's great to have so many people there. But I think we're going to lock in Bangladesh here. That's right. Colids, North Dravidian type, related to melanids, but with stronger Gondid influence. Important population elements in India, purest in Jharkhand and West Bengal, particularly in Kalarians. So I guess I was a little south, but we did it. Great work, Patriots. Yes, these are indeed Northern Dravidians. And South India might have worked if I was on the east side, but I'm glad I went north instead. So there we go. The next round. Ooh, this is tough. This is tough. Is this like North Africa? North Africa, down here, down here. I have no idea on this one. This one is tough. Yeah, Egypt. North Africa somewhere. Egypt would make sense. Someone saying Jordan. I think Egypt makes sense. Southern Egypt. I'm assuming Northern Egypt. Does that make sense? I think this is what I'll lock in here. I was right. I think I still got a 5,000 because this Egypt guy's Berberids, but yeah, Algeria and Mongolia would have worked as well. We still got the 5K. Those are Proto-Atlanto-Mediterranean types, originally named after Berbers. Yeah, there's definitely some clear sub-Saharan admixture, like you said, with the the noses, especially this lady over here. This guy looking a little bit like The Rock. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I could have gone like Canary Islands and stuff. And these are islanders, or even Azores, like Portuguese Ronaldo looking type characters, a little bit more African influence. But all right, doing pretty well, gang. Let's finish it off with a 5K. On to the next and final round. Ooh, are these like Yemenis? This guy looks like he's from Yemen to me, but I don't really know. I think I've seen this one before. I remember it might have been a bit more widespread. Gulf phenotype, people are saying, like over here. Like Oman or Kuwait, maybe like Bahrain. People saying UAE. Yeah, it seems like seems decent. Yeah, no, those were Libyans. Yeah, I've seen that one before. Not our best final round. It seems like it was a little bit harder. The average score was 28-20, but 13-26. But our total score, top 14% of today's players, so not bad. 4 perfect rounds, average of 28-20. Oh, that's telling me my average. But I was way ahead of the average on the whole thing here. The average player seemed to be getting about 22,050, whereas I, of course, had an average of 28-20. So not bad. Not bad. Pretty good game, pretty good round. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. I haven't seen any more super chats while we've been playing, so feel free to send in any super chats if you want there to be any final questions that I answer. Check in anti-war, seeing if there's anything new. Doesn't seem like a huge amount of things to cover anymore. Nothing new on Telegram, so we can probably start to land this plane pretty soon. Want to again encourage everybody to head over to worldwarnow.co. Literally going to drop it in the live chat right after this. Watch World War Now episode 147 if you haven't already. Please like the episode on YouTube, on Substack. Go to the Substack if you haven't already and like all of the recent episodes, especially the Metropolitan Mitrofan interview. I really want to get that episode with more likes. It's at like 31 or something likes right now, but we got to get that one higher up. So let's keep liking. The likes are very helpful. And if you have a Substack and you're not restacking, I don't know what you're doing either. Like it, restack it. That gets it onto other people's feeds. We are in the top 100. We've sunk down. I think we're like 90th or so in world politics. We need to get back up to our top spot. We were 74th at one point. So let's try to get in the top 50 on world politics. We got to get more people funneled into the World War Now Substack. So thank you all so much for tuning in. If you're watching on the Substack, you already know what to do. Hit the like, go over and like the Metropolitan Mitrofan interview, like episode 147, tune in and let me know in the comments on those episodes what you thought. Give me your analysis on how you think things are going to go between Turkey and Russia and Greece and Syria and Iran and Israel and everything. I want to hear from you guys, what you guys are reading. Hopefully you're looking into things as well, reading the lives of the saints, talking to holy people that you may have access to. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Not seeing any more super chats, so we're going to go over 2 more minutes, and if there's no more chats, we're going to land the plane. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I want to give a special thanks to, again, Paisios, Porphyrios, Twaho, Alexander Nevsky, Jonathan Kelly, for all the super chats. It's very, very helpful. Again, really keeps the lights on here at the World War Now bunker. Keeps the show going, keeps the weekly World War Now analysis free for the poor fags that can't they can't afford to get behind the Ether Hour, but we give very generous Ether Hour free previews as well, sometimes up to 30, 40 minutes. So sometimes people are saying we're too generous. But again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on X at Gnomrad if you haven't already. Get on there. Get me up to 12K followers, trying to get there soon here before the end of the month. So continue to share the information. Follow me on there. If you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can listen to us on there. Obviously, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching on Substack, if you're watching on X, go over to YouTube, type in World War Now, and subscribe. If you're watching on Substack or YouTube, go over to X, find World War Now and Gnomrad, for example. So you want to follow me here. You also want to follow World War Now. You can watch live on X itself. So pretty cool. And if you're watching on X or YouTube, obviously go over to worldwarnow.co on the Substack, our home base, and check things out over there. $9.99, $10 more from Jonathan Kelly from the Soros Independent Journalist Fund. Thank you, brother. I will be preaching the great replacement on the next episode in honor of this $10 and supporting it. So thank you so much, Jonathan Kelly, really the mega donor here on the streams, hitting us with $45 this evening. So thank you so much, brother. It's always a joy to have you in the chat. Hit me up on X or on Substack. We can get together in person one of these days when we're in the same area for all of your generosity. You've earned it. So thank you all so much for the support. Looks like it's about time to land the plane. So like I said, worldwarnow.co, subscribe. We have our Rasputin episode coming up very soon. I don't have I can show it right here, actually. I'm going to be discussing, the largely, saying a case for the sainthood and veneration of Rasputin. You can see this right here. We're going to be discussing all sorts of things. I've met many Rasputin experts myself in Russia, and it was great to have Alex, the Rasputin Archive, one of the most knowledgeable people on Rasputin besides Dmitry himself that I've met. So Dmitry and Alex, they really, they steal the show in that episode. Not that I'm not doing my thing. I'm there providing what I provide as the real, the generalissimo, the procurator of the World War Now extended universe. I was there, but those guys were really showing their knowledge, showing their stuff. I think it's two of probably the most knowledgeable people on Rasputin in the world, especially in the English language. That's what I would say. So thank you again all so much for tuning in. Special thanks to Jonathan Kelly, all of the super chatters, Porfirios Tuajo, Alexander Nevsky, Paisios. Hope to see you guys next week with David Erhan, same time, Tuesday evening, 7:45 Central, 8:45 Eastern. It's great to see you all there. Hopefully I'll see you next time with some super chats. But yeah, also follow us on Telegram at World War Now Telly, but worldwarnow.co. The Substack, like I said, is really the home base where you can find everything. So get behind the paywall there. Maybe we will have some sales coming up. So with all of that, we will see you on the next one. God bless.